some pretty good music now.
It's actually really good.
You know, after 52 weeks, you finally got it right. That's phenomenal. I mean, save the best musical bump music of the year for the last show of the year. So that's fabulous. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 29th, and the fifth Wednesday of December. Of course, full disclosure, if you notice that our rooms are all a little darker, it's because we are taping the night before, just in case we let the cat out of the bag or we hoist a margarita, since it is Taco Tuesday, actually, technically. Glad everybody's joining us. It is Coffee and Pan Dulce, and I am one of the co-hosts here, Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, along with our producer and co-host Christian Cano and Barb Bacon, one of our neighbors and co-hosts as well. So good morning and good evening, everybody.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. As Jenny said, today is Wednesday, the 29th. So good morning. The last Wednesday of 2021, which is what we'll be talking about. Today's topic is Adiós 2021. We want to thank everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us later on YouTube and also Facebook. I had some numbers. I got these numbers for today. In 2021, we had 240,000 people who clicked on us, 240,000 in 2021. We had 181,000 people who actually watched the videos. So that is incredible numbers. We had a really good 2020. Yes, it averaged about 17 to 20,000 a month. And so, of course, it depended on the topic. Some of them were just incredible. Barbara, one of your topic was really good, and we had quite a few of them. So with that said, let us go around the Brady. I forgot why I lost my train of thought, Jenny. Where am I?
Well, you're in your home and I'm in mine.
That's right.
We'll start there. Past that, I don't have much help for you, but I do think it is kind of funny. It's just a side note how we make such a big deal when we tape, because 99% of the people that do watch our show watch us later. So it is kind of silly, but I think it's because we based it on the tradition for people that maybe just watched our latter shows since the pandemic. They didn't realize that at one time where Christian's sitting right now is where we all gathered around his dining room table, and we would all, it was kind of more of a family show, and we were all kind of hanging out together, and we would have little breakfast pastries, hence the name of the show, and our sponsor, our Pan Dulce sponsor, which is Manolo's Bakery. And so it's for people that have only become fans in 2021 or maybe late 2020, and they've not gone back and watched the older shows, which are available on YouTube and on Facebook. It may be a little confusing because some of our jokes really stem back to those original days 3 years ago. So it is kind of hilarious because we're entering our programming fourth year.
That's right.
So it is kind of funny. But anyway, we will go around the Brady Bunch screen and introduce ourselves. So I'll introduce myself first while Christian shares our show. And I am Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. I'm a local LGBT advocate. I do a lot of work with feminism and the National Organization for Women Charlotte. I also try to help out as many other intersections as I can, including pushing the ideas of healthcare for all and healthcare justice for all. Without economic justice, you really can't have social justice. Also, gun sense laws. I don't think you can live in a democracy and fear to be shot just going to Walmart or Baskin Robbins. Barb?
I'm Barb Bacon. I'm a healthcare advocate. Started out early in my days here on the show. Now I seem to be an advocate for several other things, and the healthcare provider, transportation, and whatever. So I too believe in healthcare for all. Actually, I'm helping my niece get go to healthcare.gov so she can get better than Medicaid. And now that she's employed, and just generally gun safety. We had a family issue this year that was quite frightening, and also helping one of our adopted sisters. She was a victim of the really bad tornado in Kentucky. She and her sister. The sister is finally out of the hospital. She has a broken collarbone, broken arm, just a mess, and no house, no car, no nothing. But
Mhm.
one thing they said they really noticed is after Joe Biden was there,
Mhm.
things really started to happen. The money
Hmm.
from the GoFundMe page was immediately that people there were paying in to help clean up. So he made a difference, and I was
Hmm.
really glad to hear that. But um, electricity is restored in their neighborhood, but there's no houses. There's
Mhm.
partial houses, so it's just a mess, and I feel sorry for them, but at least the weather's not 10 or 15 below zero, but it's upsetting.
Mhm.
Mother Nature.
Well, thank you, Barbara. I'm Christian Cano, one of the other co-hosts, along with Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, Barb Bacon, Mama Ruth, and Stephen DeFiore. In 2021, I'm so excited that it is ending. It was a lot better than 2020, but I'm really excited about 2022. Today's show, before we do that, let's salute to our neighbors. Salute whatever you're drinking this morning or tonight. Let's salute to our neighbors. Also, we always want to thank our producer, sponsor, and supplier. I was there today. They were busy. Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue. Manolo's Bakery, please visit your Black and brown small businesses during this global pandemic, or any small business during this global pandemic. And Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue in Charlotte. Tamales, the las leche cakes, everything you need, bread, all kinds of stuff. Wonderful place. Thank you, Manolo's Bakery. And so with that said, today's topic is, my buttons are healthcare for all, or Medicare for all, Moms in Action, and in my heart, Black Lives Matter, on behalf of Joel Oldham, who was a guest of ours, who passed away in 2021, a young man. All right, today's topic, Adiós 2021. This is a free for all kind of show. There's no specific thing we want to talk about, but before we do, we want to continue Barbara's tradition, who got us started on this, the 3 current events. Please try to comment on these 30 seconds or less. First one, Don Jr., the former president's son, is in hot water with the evangelical Republicans, I believe, or Republicans in general. He was at a conference or something, and he said, teachings of Jesus have gotten us nothing. He was really slamming the Bible, and I'm not sure what his strategy was, but there's all these op-eds coming out saying, that should be it. Anyone who's a person of faith, or at least a Christian person of faith, who's following at least the Republican Party or our former president, you got to be crazy after he said this, or at least not be upset. The second thing is, I don't know if you guys know, but there was the president did a kind of like a broadcast, and one of the parents that was on there, it was about tracking Santa. It's one of those lighthearted Christmas things they do every night. And some parent got on there and said something, and he also, said that phrase, "Let's go, Brandon," at the very end of it. And the former president just replied back, kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, let's go, Brandon," like that. And so people were outraged, or they don't know what. Anyway, after that, he said, "No disrespect to the president. It's not that I don't like him. It's just I was practicing my free speech." Turns out yesterday he was on a podcast, the Steve Bannon podcast, and is now saying he doesn't believe the election was real, and he's really just a cuckoo person. So I think we all kind of knew it. Last one, there was a Texas sheriff who worked for the sheriff of around San Antonio, Bexar County, and the sheriff was at the January 6th terrorist attack, or whatever term you want to use. I use terrorist attack. Yeah. And the sheriff was put on leave because she posted all of this stuff on her Facebook page, and she was put on leave by the sheriff there. And then she was dismissed in June. She was fired in June, and she was appealing it. And the arbitrator upheld the thing. And she basically was saying that she was there because she wanted to be a part of history, and it was her constitutional right. And the sheriff basically said it was ridiculous. It was not like you were standing there signing of the Declaration of Independence. This was not a historic event. And so so she's lost her job. So those 3 topics, who wants to comment on those 30 seconds or less?
I guess I'll rifle through those real quick. The Brandon dude, he got his 15 minutes of fame or whatever. The trash takes itself out. Anyway, as far as the sheriff is concerned, she's a criminal, and she behaved as such, and she committed a terrorist act, or is party to a terrorist act, and she was a public official. She'll get hers, and I think former sheriffs will do really good in prison. So I hope she's got her dance card empty. She's going to do a lot of dancing over the next few years. Anyway, to move on, what was the other topic?
Don Jr.
Don Jr.
Oh, Junior. Yeah, Junior and Senior both have riled up their base pretty good. I guess, between Trump's statement with what's her face about, how great the vaccine was, and he's spending time, patting himself on the back, and Junior, for some odd reason, went off on evangelicals, and so they're basically that the Bible was useless and that Jesus was useless, more or less. I was like, well, he must have got a bad rail of cocaine right there. I mean, he just went on court. What people don't realize is that the Trumps have always made fun of evangelicals. They are not a religious family. I mean, they're a casino family.
Oh,
Exactly.
It's been more like hookers and fire trucks. I mean, if anybody even watched the show, I mean, come on. I mean, Playboy models and all kinds of stuff. Their running mates weren't. Well, he might have been Jerry Falwell Jr. too, but they definitely weren't the churchy type. They never have been. I mean, he knows all the commandments real well. He's been through all of them back and forth several times. But anyway, I'm not surprised. I just think that they realize that their time is short on the other side of the prison walls. Yeah. And they need to raise as much money as they can for their legal defense fund / little barnstorming tour. And I think they're going to say anything they can to boost up numbers, because the Bill O'Reilly, Donald Trump tour of America right now that's going on, the little stage show, is getting so desperate that they're now selling tickets for as low as $3. So basically, you can get the $3 ticket probably in the nosebleed section, and you get a free case of COVID and a local pep rally ticket to the junior high football team as well. So it's pretty sad. It's degraded down to basically a sadder version of P.T. Barnum's barnstorming tour. So it's the clown show, the clown cars pulled into the stable. So anyway.
All right. I knew you wouldn't hold back on that, Jenny. So I just
been dying to talk about June.
Exactly.
Like when I was scrolling during my break yesterday. When I saw that, I almost dropped my phone. I was like, I knew they didn't like evangelicals and they weren't the churchy types. I knew that the Trumps were stupid. I just didn't realize how stupid they were. Every week is a new accomplishment in stupidity.
Exactly. Barbara, you have any comments on any of those three?
I agree totally with Jenny. Don Jr. doesn't even deserve any mention, because if he had a brain, it would be lonesome. It's pathetic. And they're in the category of atheists as far as my family is concerned. And it's so hypocritical, and I don't even understand the evangelicals supporting them, because they, behind their back, they mock them all the time. Exactly. And it's like, why don't you guys get this? And I have a friend that's in broadcasting, and after the Trump, go out and get vaccinated, and I did this and I did that, and it's I'm the one that got all the vaccines done, and I'm the greatest, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, then why are you telling people not to get vaccinated? Well, the opinion is, in the more local kind of broadcasting people, he's finally realizing that he's killing his supporters, and he's trying to subtly backtrack everything that he's done, and I don't know how they think they're going to accomplish that. This Brandon thing, I don't even want to talk about it. I think it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It just doesn't deserve any mention. And I don't remember what the third thing is, but
the sheriff, Texas sheriff.
Oh, she deserves it. It was
just
all people that are in law enforcement that were there should be fired. Yeah. And we should never talk about them again. They're just a disgrace. And the poor policeman that got hurt and And they're still not better. They're not getting the proper care. It's just a disgrace. So I'm done.
Yeah, good point. You know, with me, the Don Jr. thing, I kind of exactly what all of y'all said. When I saw that on the treadmill yesterday, I was like, I had to read it again, because apparently this very, very, very high profile Republican did an op-ed in the Atlantic yesterday about it. That's how it started to get released. And they were talking about him saying that, and the very high profile Republican was talking about how disgraceful this was, but they shouldn't be surprised because they've been conned, and this should be like the icing on the cake about evangelicals. You've been conned for so long. Anyone else who still believes that that family believes in type of religion or whatever, it's conned. So I thought that was bizarre. And Jenny exactly said with the Let's Go Brandon thing, it was such, that the broadcast was for children, and it does every year about talking about how the location of Santa, and they let people call in and so forth, and they let this parent call in, and he said it didn't mean, it's just they just continue to prove they have no tact, no manners. I don't know if that it still matters to me. Some people, they think, it's funny, but that group of individuals, the people that love the Trumps and the MAGA people, they live in this world where I guess they don't ever want to get employed. And I just, as Jenny said, the trash usually takes itself out. That's the best way for me to describe it. I was so disgusted when I heard that. And then, but the reply that the president Biden said was, he kind of chuckled and said, yeah, let's go Brandon. So what I've said is, anytime someone says, let's go Brandon, our response should be, haha, let's go Brandon, and just turn it around. And we need to, I wish the TikTok teens would somehow take over that and turn it into a positive thing. Last thing, because I know Jenny wants to jump in, the Texas sheriff thing. It's the most ridiculous. She should be fired. She was fired. Everything was done appropriately. She was appealing this, but her excuse that she did to the arbitrator or whoever the person was, her excuse was so stupid. It was so ridiculous. And the sheriff said, this is the most ridiculous defense he's ever heard. And the defense literally was, this was the most, she said, besides having children, this was the most important event she ever experienced in her life.
Well, then you haven't had a life, honey. Go get one.
Exactly. So I'm glad that she was dismissed, and I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous. So Jenny, you want to come back on any of those real quickly?
Well, I mean, the whole Brandon thing. Of course, I completely sat that out. I saw a few people I knew that posted about it.
Yeah.
To me, it was just a case of narcissism and narcotics and a bunch of really ridiculous, low rent human beings that just think they're being funny. And I just look at the source and then I go move on. It doesn't, they don't have the power to make me upset or mad. Honestly, if they want to say F Joe Biden and they want to make fun of him, you know what, that's to me, that's fine. It actually means that he's doing really good. So
if that's
for me,
exactly.
That we are living our best life by supporting our president that won by almost 8 million votes, and that Trump actually lost at least 65 times because there were at least 65 court cases plus all the recounts. And
it continues. That's the ridiculous part.
And Biden's lead increases in every place that ever gets contested. So that says a lot. But anyway, we have seen. The only thing that ever concerns me about all of us is that we don't stand our ground historically. Because we had democracy tested once in the Civil War. And after the Civil War, we let all the Southern generals and all the Southern leaders off the hook when they probably all should have been executed. They all should have been tried for treason. And gotten firing squad, and then everybody that helped in the South that was wealthy or was a slave owner should have lost all their land, and land should have been given to the former slaves. Is what should have happened. We did not. They killed Lincoln and put in a Southerner as president, and the rest was history. what we have to do with all these 600 plus terrorists is they all need to go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they make the case on all those 600 people, and they're all going to rat out, the elected officials, those elected officials need to be thrown under the prison.
Yep, I agree.
No deals, no clemency, none whatsoever. And anybody, especially the older, like the Trump and stuff like that, they need to make sure that they die in prison.
Yeah.
And that they never see the light of day. And because we're talking about democracy and peaceful transfer of democracy, something that no matter who the political party was, that we believed in our entire 240-year history is at stake. That's it. That's our integrity. And the world watched in shock as one of the longest running democracies on the planet right now, a shining beacon on the hill, as Reagan called it, shit the bed, literally on January 6th last year, and sell for a 2-bit charlatan snake oil salesman that is nothing more than a crap stain on the underpants of our American history and on the flag, storm the Capitol for his own narcissism and ego is just unreal. And that we had sitting Republican officials, not only, as we're finding out this week, had a 34 or 24 page PowerPoint developed that's all of a sudden surfaced. And this is some of the things that Trump's been fighting in court tonight still. So this week, right into the trials, is a very elaborate PowerPoint that made the rounds both in the Republican Senate and the Republican House, that sitting members of Congress made, created, and vetted this PowerPoint on how to attack the Capitol. Now, let me repeat this. We had sitting public officials, elected officials to uphold the Constitution. That means including the peaceful transfer of power, no matter what. Created a PowerPoint that was basically termed as the way to take back the presidency, was the way it was worded.
But today's topic is Adiós 2021, and I just want to come back and say something about that. But before we do that, just want to hear what you think, just kind of your first thoughts of what you think about the ending of 2021. Let's start with you, Barb, and then we go with you, Jen.
I guess I expected us to be a lot farther along for certain things, and we're not. And in defense of the Biden administration, and because he had that 2-year history being vice president and helping us through that horrible, horrible thing, I think it was so much worse than what they thought it was going to be. And trying to fix it rather than just put Band-Aids on it and move forward, I think has taken a toll on the progress but I think we're going to be better off in 2022, but I am disappointed that we're not as far along as I was hoping we were going to be. And I'm finally getting glimmers of maybe some of the even non-mainstream Republicans are starting to get worried about what they're doing. And maybe they're worried about 2022. I mean, they all talk about, man, we're going to smack them down and we're going to take this back. Really? Do you believe that? When polls are saying 4 out of 5 Americans aren't going to let that happen. So I don't know. I'm optimistic about 2022. I feel like we got a little bit of our personal freedoms back, but I guess the thing that disappoints me most is we vaccinated people, boosted people, trying to do the right thing. Too many people stay quiet. I have been in so many situations in the past couple months where I'm out in public and somebody's walking around with no mask or the mask under their nose, and I go right after them. And it's like, oh God. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm done. I'm not doing breakthrough COVID. They have no idea what breakthrough COVID does. And I don't want to find out. So if I open my mouth, he says, you're liable to get slugged. I said, hey, I'm not going down without a fight. I don't care anymore. I'm done. Gloves are off.
Yep.
I don't take my mask off, but I can still be loud.
Sure.
And I did it 2 times yesterday. Put your damn mask on or get out of here.
Yeah.
And I got my phone out and I'm calling the police. And this guy just looked at me and said, I'm not kidding. Put your damn mask on. And he did. You know what? I'm done.
Excellent.
And I goes, oh my God, I'm going to have to bail you out of jail. Fine, have bail money ready. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of it. So.
Well, my $20 is on Barb, first of all. Second of all, when we do bail you out of jail, it'll be a great 2 queers in a truck special edition.
My goodness, it's true.
And we'll title it "Getting Barb Out of the Pokey." You know, that would be
right.
That would be.
Yeah,
you talk about shame. It would be absolutely a ride. Actually, I don't want you to go to jail.
All right.
But
Jenny, what's your thoughts on 2021 ending?
I honestly think 2021 went way better than when it started. I mean, if you asked me anytime after January 6th in the first couple months, I would have just quite frankly said, we're swirling the drain. I wasn't real sure if we would even see 2024 elections. I saw. That's the first time in my life I ever gave up hope. That's the first time that I believed that my father's and my grandfather's sacrifices were in vain. My heart was very heavy at the beginning of this year. I saw the democracy as we know it. It's the first time I'd seen Americans give up on democracy in so many ways. And it scared me. It scared me past the fact that I felt like we were heading towards some kind of dystopian mob rule. And I'm pleasantly surprised how good of a job the FBI has done and how methodical and how they're bringing people to justice and how they're making sure that the Biden administration and things in general, putting the Biden administration aside, or we're going towards the right side of history. I've also been extremely pleasantly surprised on how President Biden and Vice President Harris have navigated what you could just term as a swirling hurricane of fuckery and minefields, and has done a phenomenal job and has done a life-changing job for so many millions, tens of millions of Americans. So, and just committing to a certain path that I believe that our president and vice president committed to from day one and had a plan. Yeah. And I don't think they're going to deviate from it. And I don't think they're behind at all. They passed things this year. When they suggested, I was like, it's a good wish list. And if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, oh, what a Christmas we'd have. But I never believed in my wildest dreams that half the stuff that they got through the Congress actually made it through. And I truly believe that even the recently stopped spending bill, I believe will pass in early 2022. I do believe there's a deal that's already been made. And I do believe we're going to see a fabulous beginning sometime in January. And I do believe it's going to pass. I do believe that Biden and Manchin have already agreed to terms. I don't think it's going to fly through Congress. But it's going to be a win for 2022 to begin the political season. I see a lot of great hope. I see a lot of very qualified women of color running for office to offices that have never been challenged to before. We see Val Demings in Florida. We see our own Justice Beasley now being basically the assumed Democratic nominee to take on the Republicans for a vacated Republican seat. I see at least 3 or 4 governorships going back to Democrats in Texas, Georgia, Florida, and probably Ohio. I see the possibilities of not only saving democracy, but saving our sanity. And I believe that this is just really their last push, that a handful, less than 23% of our population, is trying to hijack our country at all costs. But I also see the 81 million Americans that said no last year. and said, no, not on our watch. We're not going down that road again. And I truly believe in 2022, those same 81 million people will get out and keep us on the right side of Western democracies and the right side of history, and will save a very fragile democracy that absolutely needs practice and diligence. And I do believe we have the heroes in our party to be able to do it. And I'm hoping that we stay on track like we did in 2020.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I would agree with everything everyone else said. I actually watched a couple of shows last night, towards the end of last year and then the beginning of this year. And I agree with Barbara that I had a lot of high hopes for some things, like, being able to going able to go to the sports bar and feel, the way I have before, and all the stuff that's probably not as important, but I kind of miss those things. But at the same time, I have to realize the shape this country was in when our president took over. And it was, the way Jenny said, we all put a smile on our face, but I think we were all scared. 2020 was such a crazy, scary year. And then it started off with 2021 and the terrorist attack on January 6th. And the fact that we are able to sit here today and have some hope. We have vaccines, we have testing. And what's interesting, today I saw on the news and last night about how people are saying there's not enough testing and we need more testing. And I just remember all these people who are against testing. All these people who now they're complaining, I don't have enough testing. I got 2 tests last week.
Well, now they can't go anywhere if they're not tested.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good.
And now you're going to complain about it?
Exactly. But I was looking when both of you were talking, I was looking, there was an article that I read today, and there was a poll that was released, I think yesterday, and it was a nonpartisan poll, and they polled 1,000 Americans, and they asked them how they felt about the January 6th issue. 73% of those people in that poll said it was very important that Congress and someone be held accountable for it. And a lot of them weren't paying attention to the daily stuff that's going on, like the subpoenas and all. They're just hearing kind of the general, but they all believe at the end of the day, they want someone's head. Yep. And so this investigation that Congress is doing into them is actually being done because they know the same polling numbers that those voters out there, Barbara said 4 or 5 people are tired of Trump. I think people are tired of all of this craziness of 2020, and they are ready for someone to be held accountable. And I do believe that that's the reason there's so much pushback about not getting these documents and so forth, because they're afraid what people are going to see. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, in a way, that brings me kind of a smile, because we always, we're engaged in what happens every day. And we always want to know what other Americans, like, the rest of America, they're not as engaged, but they're thinking the same thing we're thinking. We're just seeing it every day. They want someone held accountable. They're tired. They asked them who the top 5, they give them 5 names: Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congressman Jordan, Matt Gaetz. Most of them only recognized 2 of them, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they all said that she was wacko, she was crazy, they need to get her out of Congress. And these are people who aren't paying attention. Right. And they said Matt Gaetz, they didn't really know a lot about him, but they didn't have a positive thing on him, And so the good news is these individuals that aren't as engaged as we are, that information is filtering down. And it's getting to people who maybe not pay attention. And I do believe 2022 is going to be, I hope, a year of those being held accountable. So, Jen, you look like you want to say something.
I think and the good thing about a well-run democracy, and I do hope that we, as a country, that we do run our democracy as diligently and as effectively and as fairly as humanly possible. I don't want to see a Republican Party or any political party go away, but they got to clean up their act. We can't.
Yeah, I agree.
We can't sacrifice democracy on the altar of some sort of twisted deal. That whatever sitting Congress people are involved with this as the investigation ensues, and especially after the 600 or so prosecutions for the boots on the ground people are prosecuted and found guilty, and obviously they're going to also rat out the Congress people that were involved. As those trials begin for the Congress people in the same way, and as they get arrested, I hope that they all are convicted for max times. I hope that they are all sentenced for 10, 20, and 30 years, and hopefully in some cases life.
Yeah.
But you know, and I want to see you know, justice be done, because clearly we need to send a message to anybody in this country. And this doesn't matter which political party you're a part of. Yeah. This is bigger than a political party debate. This is the fact that this was an organized attack. This was something been planned, you know, weeks in advance. They had a PowerPoint, they had a plan, they had maps, they had a burner phones. I mean, they had, this was an organized attack, very similar to anything that we can compare to 9/11 or anything like that. It just because they were Americans doesn't make it any less terroristic. In fact, because the target was American democracy and an American transfer of power, and quite frankly, including a sitting vice president at the time that was a Republican was one of the targets. And so you have to weigh the fact that a sitting president targeted his own vice president because he didn't back them up in some kind of cuckoo plan for Pence to decertify the election and sway the electoral college. Pence has enough sense, not much, but he had just enough sense to realize that he would already be in prison right now if he'd have tried that, and it would have been devastating.
Yeah, you know, I think you know, we're all going to look back at 2021. I'm very excited about 2022. And then, of course, 2023, I think we're going to get better and better as far as many things. You know, we had a show about the Roaring 20s. Are they going to come back? I think our economy is going to continue to grow. You know, this testing thing with the Omicron, you know, yes, it is very contagious, but
don't you think, Christian, as a business person yourself, you know, it's really hard to have a good economy if you don't keep a lid on a airborne pandemic, especially in tourism and travel. But you have a background in, and I have a background in. We both know about the hotel and resort business. It's really hard to do a lot of trip bookings. You know, if we are always looking over our shoulder, and at least we have a grown up in the White House that when we need testing kits, he goes out and gets 500 million of them and ships them out immediately.
Exactly.
You got a guy that's rolling up his sleeves, and a gal and our vice president that just puts their head down, doesn't worry about their ego or their Twitter. It just goes to work every day.
And I think what Barbara mentioned, I think, is really an example of what most people who are not as engaged as all of us are feeling. I think what they're feeling, they're not as vocal as we are, and they may not have the passion that we have about politics. But I think things in general, they're so tired of Trump. They're so tired of the anti-vaxxers. They're so tired about these Let's Go Brandon people, the Marjorie Taylor Greens. They're so tired. They know people like this in their lives, who they work for, maybe even some. They know people like this that they don't want to be around. And this
just put up with them on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Exactly. And
like, oh no, not Uncle Bob.
Yes, exactly. So this is actually one of those things that I think the silent majority, you know, they really are tired of all of this. And I do believe it's this interesting dynamic we'll see in 2022. I think, I'll give you an example. My congressperson, and I think yours too, Jenny, and actually yours, Barb, currently right now, Dan Bishop, who is a huge Trump crazy person, white supremacist, he's just crazy. Since all of this backlash within the North Carolina Republican Party here in North Carolina has been against Madison Cawthorn, he has not said one thing about Trump.
No.
And he's trying to distance himself away from Madison
Oh,
Cawthorn and
just like he
Marjorie
did
Taylor
from the
Greene.
bathroom bill, right?
Oh, yes. Now it's going to be like suddenly,
Yeah.
I didn't really mean that. What happened was, and so I really can't wait to our elections in 2022, and whoever runs against him basically just sends out palm cards of him, Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Madison Cawthorn. And there's so much on Twitter. There's so much social media stuff from his son, who's a huge Madison Cawthorn fan. He needs to be thrown under the bus. Everything needs to be thrown at him.
Absolutely. I think screenshots of
oh my goodness,
Bishop's
just do that.
Twitter account, it just showing where he's egged Madison on, which is just like an unhinged junkyard dog. And I think what's most important, and I said this quite a while ago. I said it in 2019. Even before COVID, I said at the end, the Republicans who's going to bring down Trump and Trump.
Oh, exactly. Oh, you're right. You did say that.
Yeah.
I said it even when Jeff Scott said, "Oh no, he's going to win in a landslide." Before COVID, I said, "No." Remember. At the very end, what's going to end Trumpism? Because the Republican Party is bigger than one man. Yeah. Even if it doesn't seem like it right now. But there is a lot of people that have dedicated their entire lives and their fortunes on this billion-dollar industry called the Republican Party, just like the Democratic Party too. Both $2 billion machines.
Especially here in Mecklenburg, North Carolina.
Yeah. Let's be realistic. Yeah. And a clown like Trump and his idiot kids is crash this little car as hard as they can do it. And the Republican Party, whether they want to admit it or not, because they're not going to admit it, methodically is going to do a black bag of job on them, just like they did with Nixon and all of his little cronies. Yep. And they buried them. They distanced themselves. They tried to little as much attachment in 1976 in elections. Carter won. What we're going to see in 2024, and I think you're going to start seeing it in 22 and definitely in 23, is you're going to see a purge in the Republican Party. You're going to probably see a lot of Trumpers lose their elections in their different districts. And then I think in 2023, you're going to see a reboot. You're going to see some of the old familiar faces like back. Chris Christie, whack job, Governor DeSantis, and people like that are going to try to make a churn, but I think you're going to see more of the Northeastern Republicans and the California Republicans surface
and less
more.
Of the Southern.
Less of the Southern evangelical wackos and homosexuals.
I mean, I agree with you, Jenny. Even in Mecklenburg County, one of the reasons I think Dan Bishop, our congressperson, doesn't want to run in his new district is because it includes almost all of Charlotte. There aren't a lot of Republicans who live in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, educated Republicans who like Dan Bishop. He's the clown of the party. He's the big mouth, crazy, his first wife turned lesbian for a reason. There's a reason. That's my belief. My belief. There's a reason why. However, someone could look into that at another time or whatever. And that's why he's so homophobic, I think. I don't know why. Maybe he can explain that. But the reason he wants to run projection. That's right. I agree with you. And the reason
Shakespeare said, yes, if you doth protest too much, like like look at those homosexuals over there. Exactly. When you point your finger that much,
exactly.
I'm just saying. I think there's somewhere there's.
I have never turned anyone lesbian, so I will say that's an accomplishment. So
there was another joke there.
That's right.
I can tell you guys personally, when I was working for Ed, electioneering for Ed. Yeah. And somehow, all of a sudden I had Dan Bishop cards and Ed Driggs and somebody else, I don't remember. And I'm like, I put Dan Bishop's cards on the ground because I wasn't polling for him. I wasn't doing anything. And this lady saw me put on and she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Whoa." They handed them to me. And she just ripped me a new one. And I said, I am not supporting him. I am not voting for him. And I hope you're not either. And all these people looked at me and Raleigh came back and I said, don't you
Yeah.
ever hand me Dan Bishop cards again. I just
Yeah.
got that handed to me. And he goes, what? I said, I don't like him. And I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm here for Ed and nobody
Yeah.
else. If you were running
Well,
it, for you too, but
yeah.
no.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're I mean, they're not paying you. I mean, this is my free time. I'm donated to these people.
There to get verbally abused by
Exactly.
people for doing something I'm not doing. So
Exactly. Well, I think even people, Republicans in the more rural areas like Union County and all of the other counties that he wants to run in his whenever the new district ends up being, I think even they think he's kind of clownish because he's really done nothing for their district. And as a result of that, I do believe that the reason he needs to, anyway, I think he's going to be really surprised on how many people actually, first of all, they don't like people who live in Charlotte anyway. And he lives in Charlotte and he's going to run in a rural area. So he thinks somehow he can country himself or rural himself. He's a corporate attorney who's trying to act like he's a good old boy kind of person. And he's a clown. And so I do think that's going to be interesting. And he's running away from Trump. It's kind of what we started this conversation. So I do think 2022, we're going to start finding people. We're still going to have the loudmouths that say all this, just like at the bars. That's one of the reasons maybe I don't miss going to sports bars as much anymore, because I don't have to listen to the crazy loud drunks, So
just on the TV.
Yeah, right. I would just turn the TV on. But with all that said, I mean, 2022, I really have high hopes for. I think that as more people are starting to get vaccinated and trying to take this seriously, and works are requiring these vaccinations, and there's even hints about possibly requiring the vaccinations to fly. There's some people talking about that. Yeah.
Well, most of the world does not allow you, like you can't travel into Canada, for example, without proof of vaccination before you even enter. We got Melba, flying to Canada.
Yeah.
There's no country in the EU that you can get into without proof of vaccination, even if you live in the EU and you travel inside the European Union. So there's almost no country in the world that will allow you. And I definitely know countries like Australia and New Zealand have, been some of the most strictest ones about the vaccination passports for a long time. And the United States auto enforce that inside the United States travel. So I think the biggest thing that I think we're going to see different from 2021 to 2022 is that I think you're going to see corporate America realize that the pathway to a sustainable economy is enforcing vaccination inside their own doors,
exactly,
with their own staffs, and especially the medical industry. I believe the medical industry as a whole is going to say, even if the federal government or the state governments don't mandate this, we're going to have to start making hard decisions.
Sure.
We just saw the new case count that now is averaging 267,000 cases a day. Because of Omicron and being so highly transmittable. Hospitals and medical facilities are going to start making hard decisions on the clientele they want. I do believe unvaccinated people it's going to be more and more common, especially in big cities where resources get strained because of mostly rural clientele that comes in because the rural hospitals are full. They're going to come in and go, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come in here, even if you have a toenail problem. We just can't. We've got to make, and it's going to come down to economics, because they're going to look at these unvaccinated people basically like plague rats and go, well, we're going to put you on a leper colony, boo-boo. Like, we can't have you coming in the malls or the Maserati dealerships. But I can see the medical industry, because you got a lot of doctors that make pretty good money. And I can just, I love our doctors. I love our medical community. But I'm going to tell you what, if you spend a lifetime building up a sizable nest egg and practicing medicine, there's a lot of ego, but also a lot of self-protection. I.e., like my dad, for example, that protects himself at all costs.
You're not going to want to operate on someone who's not vaccinated.
Yeah, or even a dermatologist, where you're going to be in close quarters with somebody, or medical services, especially just run-of-the-mill stuff like cosmetic surgeries, orthodontics, things like that, where you're gonna at times where people maybe are gonna bring down their face guard. Why would you risk your own life for an idiot that's not willing to opt in?
So Jenny, you touched on something really important, and we're going to ask the last question before we end the show about the corporate America. I completely agree with you. I believe that we've gone through this patience of corporate America, and there was this big push in the summer from QAnon people that people are losing, people don't want to work, and all this kind of stuff. And corporate America was getting ready, and we went through a very successful holiday season with record sales. And corporate America is adjusting. And I believe in 2022, people in management and mid-management and HR positions, CEOs, CFOs, COOs will come to them and say, what do we want to do in 2022? And their reply is going to be, I don't want to mess with anti-vaxxers anymore. Let's just deal with the people that we have now. Pay them a couple of bucks more. We're making a profit already. And I think it was being tested. Had we had a disastrous holiday season sales, then corporate America would have said, it is a labor shortage. That's what attributed to it.
In fact,
it was
sales.
Yeah.
It was
they went up
considerably over holiday season 2019.
Right.
So pre-COVID.
Yes,
so
exactly.
We
so
have
I think
to
you're
realize
going to see a lot of surprises. Yeah.
That Biden's economic policies worked.
Yeah.
For number one, getting America back to work, building back better. We obviously it worked. That's there's no debate on that. And so there's no way for the regressives to lie about that. It's economic fact. So I think corporate America has enough sway in their own circles. Well, I mean, if they can artificially hold down wages for 12 years, they sure shit can force vaccinations. Let's call it like we said. We haven't seen a pay raise for minimum wage workers for 12 years. While housing's going up 300-400%. So I think a little shot in the arm that a few people are a little squeamish and crybabyish about. That's no thing for a chicken wing now. I think some people are about to get some shots in some arms is what's going to happen.
And I think what we're going to look at when people look back at 2021, when they talk about these companies, these small mom and pop places that closed and so forth. Well, I think what they're going to see is we had too many places. We had too many burger joints. We had too many. And I think the markets are just adjusting themselves and saying, I don't need 12 Waffle Houses. Maybe I just need 6 Waffle Houses. I don't need, all these mom and pop businesses. They were probably working on the margins anyway. Maybe they should, the market determined who would survive and who wouldn't. And I think,
I think we're on the cusp
of, last question.
We're on the cusp of a tremendous amount of automation too. So I think what people don't realize, and this is more of a long-term discussion and a different show, but what we're going to realize is in the next 10 years that many of the jobs that we're doing by hand are going to be replaced with some sort of more automated, more efficient deal. And so many of the people that are in the labor pool now are going to have to pivot anyway.
Yeah.
And so we're just going through that flex like we did from being an agrarian society, aka farming, to mass manufacturing in the early 20th century. We are now becoming a true 21st Amazon, Google machine type economy. And there is going to have growing pains. And quite frankly, the pandemic just mixed into there because that's just how we do it. If we're going to go big, let's go big.
Listen, we don't have a lot of time. We want to end our last show on time, our last show of the year. And then we'll go to New Year's resolutions. The last in 30 seconds or less, or maybe 1 minute, because we got about 7 minutes left. Last question is going to be, what was your favorite show of 2021? Let's try to keep this under a minute. Who wants to go first?
I will.
Go ahead.
I think our best show, even though it was one of our saddest shows, was Joel's show. That was so well done and so worth it. And it broke my heart. I just couldn't believe it. He was such a dynamic young man. And I knew that show, that the last show he was on, I'm like, what is wrong with him? He just wasn't the same person. And it broke my heart. But I mean, each of us, at least every time I think about the show, I think about him, and you mention him every week. And he's going to stay with me forever.
Yeah.
And the way he would just go, now, Barbara, and he would just, and I just, every once in a while, I just, his big shiny eyes and his big smile that he had, I miss him terribly, but I think that was our best.
Good.
Well,
hey, Jen.
I'm about to pick second best because I agree with you, Barbara. I completely forgot about the Joel tribute show, but sometimes the brightest lights are the ones that burn out the fastest. I miss his energy, the innocence that he brought to the discussion. That I think he saw everything as possible. That when he ran for mayor, he saw it as possible. Even though when I met him, I thought he was in high school. I thought he was the candidate's son. Like I had no idea. And then once I started talking to him, I was like, oh no, this young man's got it going on. He may not win this time, but someday, in my mind, when I left that discussion, I felt like this guy's going to be governor someday or something like that. Like I really felt that in my bones. And Charlotte lost a great one, not a good one, but a great one. Probably the second best show we did this year. I'd have to say is the Festivus show. And that's just from a personal selfish standpoint. It has nothing to do with production qualities because I don't know if the show is actually that good, but it entertained me, which was the most important part.
Of course,
because we have so many heavy topics.
If we can't if we don't like watching ourselves, I
mean, I do this for me. So all of you guys that are viewers, if you get something out of it, but I have 100% batting average satisfied myself. So just take that to the bank right here. But the Festivus show, was probably my favorite. And of course, the Chonkless show. I mean, I could see us doing a show about Chonkless forever. It just is too dang funny.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with you. I would say the Joel show was I think that was a good show. I think we did a good job with that one.
But I would say the SBA show.
Oh yeah. That was
from
a
production value. From a production value and a value for our listener.
Sure. It was
I think it was probably our most professional version of the show.
That's the one that we'll put in the real
playhouse.
Yeah. That's the one when someone comes and wants to know what we're all about. I would put clips of that one on it because that was I agree.
Do not show them the gun show. That was our worst show of the year by far.
See, the gun show, I don't know. The gun show, they got the most views of anyone that we had in 2021.
Really? Oh wow!
Yes,
it was an awful
it's like
show.
It was
awful.
It was a lot, and
it was unhinged.
I think it was. But go ahead, Jen.
It's only one of two shows that I'm embarrassed to be on that we've done in 3 years. The one with Richard Rivette.
Yeah.
I wasn't on
that show. Should have been stopped halfway through, and he should have been excused off the air. And the way he behaved, and then the gun show, I should have stopped it in the middle and said, I can't participate in this. It was so unhinged and so nauseating, and it's one of the few shows. When I think about it, I cringe and what I didn't say. There were some things I should have said to shut down some really disgusting things that were said.
I think I agree with you. I think that show was an example. I think that show was an example of our attempt to be around the table with people who don't have the same views as we do.
Right.
And they playing under different etiquette, manners, and rules than we play. And I think that is one of the reasons why people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Madison Cawthorn and QAnon people and libertarians and a lot of these you're not the boss of me people get so much attention is because we tend to try to hold ourselves with some type of couth.
Dignity in class.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
And
wait,
some people make a decision. I don't care if I
I,
hurt someone else's feelings. I'm going to say it. You know what I mean? You know what I
I,
mean?
it wasn't so much
So
that they hurt my feelings.
no, I
I
mean
guess
yours.
where I'm ashamed
Yeah.
is some of the stuff they said that was so patently cringy.
Yes.
It's so
Yeah.
cringy,
Mm-hmm.
not to mention untrue, but
Sure.
also just the overall smugness and
Yeah.
entitlement about
Yeah.
the gun crowd and the
Sure.
anti-sexual crowd that thinks that more guns is
Mm-hmm.
better and that
Yeah.
kids dying in schools is not that big of a deal, and just the way they
Mm-hmm.
minimize
Yeah.
children's deaths and minimize
Mm-hmm.
the death industry in general, and
Yeah.
glamorize it and try to make almost a
Yeah.
joke of it. There were some cringy things that were said.
Sure.
I think the worst part of that show was
Mm-hmm.
when you brought up, Christian,
Mm-hmm.
the insurance policies for gun,
Yep.
making people carry
Mm-hmm.
them. And Steven's
Mm-hmm.
answer was, well, then it would be harder for to afford guns. Almost like, guns are an entitlement, like they should be
Yeah.
affordable.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
what I should have said, and I truly regret this, one of the few
Sure.
regrets I have of the show, is not chiming in and going with Steven. That's the whole point. It's the same
Yeah.
reason why we have liability insurance for cars. That's why we have health insurance, is an
Excellent point.
accountability and a
Mm-hmm.
gateway.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because of people like you that
Mm-hmm.
enable a death cult mentality in
Mm-hmm.
this country, where you think guns makes
Mm-hmm.
us safer. Guns don't make us safer, our brains
Mm-hmm.
do. And when we
Yeah.
don't have the common sense to say,
Mm-hmm.
just say no,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a problem. When we think
Well,
gun ownership is
yeah.
more important than
Mm-hmm.
safety.
Well, but and I agree with you with everything you're saying, Jenny. And I know your heart, and I know you, and I know in 2022, I mean, I hope that we get a better representation of different points of views, how we do the show and how we address them. I think obviously we've learned over the last 3 years, and I think in 2022 we will have a better year of how we do, because I want to continue to have people who don't agree with me.
And I don't fault anybody for
Yeah.
telling their stories and hustling
Sure.
their hustle. But actually, the biggest criticism on that whole thing is myself. I'm actually calling myself out on that particular episode.
Yeah.
I felt like it was the only time that I didn't come to lock up for whatever
Sure.
reason, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And because I'm not intimidated by Steven at all.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's probably my worst performance of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel bad just because I didn't give our viewers the best counterpoint to some ridiculous statements.
Well, and I we will end on that, and we will end in next week's show. Just to let you know, we do have January's schedule out, and in case you want to know, they get really more exciting. The first show of the year is actually going to be called A Year After January 6th Terrorist Attack. It'll be on January 5th, and we'll be talking about our feelings towards what has happened over the last year, and we'll be coming up on the year of that crazy, crazy day. The second show of the year will be who was Martin Luther King Jr. We'll talk about his impact right before we celebrate his birthday here in the United States. And then on the 19th, the third show of the year, we hope to have Reverend Dr. Sadler back, and maybe even Jennifer Roberts, to talk about their Reimagining America project. They have a project that they are going, and we hope to have them back during that time period. And then the last show of the year, we will talk about, and we may change this because we want to make it a little bit more lighthearted. I think we got some deep topics. What is a modern day white supremacist? We may change it to how do you eat a tamale? So we will discuss that. We'll have our own, yeah. We will. That's have a pretty good
flex now. I mean, what a spectrum! If we literally go and change the topic from
white supremacy,
we do it as maybe we do that 4 shows an either or. Maybe we flex in the middle and we talk about white supremacy and go, oh, by the way, how do you eat it tomorrow?
And that's the clip we send to the to the agents.
We're versatile.
On, yeah, exactly. We did a show on what is a modern day white supremacist, or how to eat a tamale. Next on Coffee and Pan Dulce.
That would be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. Maybe we can
And
have
Barb,
some
what do you
Manolo.
think? And Barb,
Maybe we can have some
That would
Manolo
be very,
tamales
very
on there.
diverse, that's for sure, yeah.
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 All right. Well,
maybe we'll have to do a taste test or something.
that's right. Okay.
Invite a white supremacist to come and taste the tamales. There you go.
Hey, see if they eat the corn husk.
I already said we can't bring Richard Rivette back on.
Oh, that's right. Well, all right. Well, we don't know that. All right. So with that said, let's go over on the Brady Brent screen and tell us what you're going to do over the next couple of days, or if you have a New Year's resolution you want to share, or if that's something secret. So we'll go. Let's go, Barbara, or is it Jenny, then Barbara, and then we'll let Holiday Bernie say his.
Well, my New Year's resolution is always probably about the same, which is always try to exercise as much as I can, drink more water, and maybe get to go see more of America. Last couple of years, that hasn't been as very possible, but I am hoping to see maybe some different states in 2022. That would be sweet. As far as what I'm doing for New Year's, I'm doing absolutely nothing. I am not going out. I am not a New Year's Eve type person, believe it or not. That is one of my reflection nights. So as soon as I get done working on the 31st, I will slide into my apartment. I will pull up my blankies to my neck, watch some streaming shows,
Please?
and I'll be asleep before it becomes 2022, most likely.
Yeah, we're not going out either. That's amateur night as far as I'm concerned. I was in my 20s, I always had a great time, but not anymore. And all the people that we usually do things with, we're all staying home. It's like, take care of ourselves, be safe. Let's hit 2022, happy and healthy, and staying home. So, no. And I'm not doing any work this week. I'm doing nothing if I can. So, yeah, that's all I'm doing. Nothing.
Excellent. Well, I am only putting this cowboy hat on because 2 weeks ago, Reverend Dr. Sadler said he had never seen me without a cowboy. It's the first time he'd seen me without a cowboy hat. And so just so that way we can end the year with me, people who have not seen me with my cowboy hat on. Hat etiquette is you don't wear a hat in someone's house unless they allow you. Since this is my house, I'm going to allow myself. So we are. Yeah, so as everyone else is, we are staying home for New Year's Eve, just like us old timers, or not old timers. That came out wrong. Can we take two? All right, let's do it again. Like everyone else, I'm staying home because it's the smartest thing to do. It's just to stay home. And I am actually going to make my menudo. I'm making menudo from scratch. I got my ingredients. I won't tell you what's in it in case you want some of it. I picked it up today, and then of course getting ready for a wonderful 2022 like I do every year. Going to the gym, gonna get down to my body, what is it, the body percentage, I don't know, I'm supposed to lose like 25 pounds to be at my body percentage. This is not realistic.
Oh, ideal weight.
Yeah, ideal. Yeah, whatever it is, the body, the whatever.
Body mass, whatever.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that will be happening in 2022. It hasn't over the last 20 years, but maybe it will in 2022. So, that's basically it. So with that said, I want to thank everyone so much for watching us in 2021. As I mentioned during the opening, we had 240,000 people touch our page in 2021, and 180,000 in 2020 and watch our shows and our videos. And we had some shows that did very, very well. And there's some that, it was just us and about 1,000 people, which is good for me. At the end of the day, we do this show because of each other. It's a community show. And even when we get bought by Hulu or Netflix, we'll still, And then Jenny comes in with all her writers. I
need a streamlined trailer. I need
and Barbara.
Personal masseuse.
Exactly. All right. So with that said, let's try to end with technology. Let's see if it works, Jen, and then stay on, y'all, so we can do our promo. Let's see if this works. It works. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all. We'll see you in 2022. Bye, y'all.
Bye.